I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion.
Signal me, and I'll come with a linking book to bring us back.
We have here nitric acid, glycerine, and a special mixture of my own. Together, it's horrible, dangerous stuff blows you up. But mixed together in the right way, as only I know how, what do you think it makes?
I can't be the first one who wanted to see my youngest son.
Well, Miss family, thank you so much for joining in today on our final build. Get a little warmed up in the studio. It's about 5 minutes in. We back to restream. That thing is working.
It's murder out there. You can't even travel around your own microcircuits without permission from Master Control Program. I mean, sending me down here to play games. Who does he calculate he is?
You all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams.
The galaxy. The galaxy.
Our purpose, to create a star within a star.
The Thessalonian you're fighting. He's the biggest man I've ever seen. I wouldn't want to fight him.
That's why no one will remember your name.
How dare you?
Finally, we get to, at a certain point, this 8th and 9th dimensional being.
Well, then why can't we see it?
Your awareness may be powerful enough to control your instincts. Your instinct will be to remove your hand from the box.
At peace. There is no hunger. There is no violence. The environment is healed.
Well, then why can't we see it?
Our purpose. Our purpose. Our purpose, to create a star.
Okay.
can't be the first one who wanted to see my youngest self.
Though our hero's destiny might lie in the stars above, the beginning of his journey was much more.
So you know math is never just numbers. The scholar.
The Thessalonian you're fighting.
All right, so we're going to do ourselves one better and take this last 20 seconds and just take some deep breaths in and out. That good old fresh and clean air, free. They're ready to give you all of the current and all the charge that you need. Sending love to the entire tribe across the space. It's on and popping. I think I need to do a little bit with my lighting, though. Let me go ahead and pump it up just a little bit. And while I am doing that, you can just take the time, again, to keep your breathing cycles in check. Also realize that you actually made it. It's on time. You're in the space that you're supposed to be. This is actually the final multidisciplinary build, a series of what was 8. There is one final announcement, which, of course, is of the winners of the NFT giveaway of the Warriors of Love. So let me just take a second and pump it up real quick. All right. Okay, so, wow, it's great to see all the beautiful faces. It looks like that we are actually broadcasting clearly because we using that polished thing. I am back with my old streaming service. Kind of hate that I left just for some Instagram streams that never panned out to be more than 10 videos. Now we know. So let me get myself adjusted over here. And wow, so today's build is directly centered around really the modern Vista. You know, what we're really looking at is not, if you didn't notice, like most of these builds that were around the launch of the Secret Energy Foundation and Create DAO has been really about everything, you know, all of life, not just cryptocurrency. It was, you know, really our expression to you of showing you that this is a multidisciplinary indeed. This is the space that you come into where you really want to get a complete and full and whole picture of life and existence. And also when you want that life to be breathed into by living life forms and beings who vibrate those things. And that, of course, is us. I'm Seven Bomar. I'm with Secret Energy. This is the tribe. And I'm not only the client, I'm also the president, meaning that I engage in every single thing that I am discussing and talking about, because what I've agreed to do is just open up my personal diary and show it to you and let you see exactly what I'm up to, especially in my life of expansion, and not only figuring out what happens when you die, because we're now beyond that, but actually just how much you can do in the land of the living for your brothers and sisters and your beloved and those that you actually care for in this space, because that's how we do it. When we receive something so amazing and so beautiful like what this land and this earth and this space has given us, it is in our intentions just to really extend that and pay that forward, if you may, if we get the ability to actually do that, or if we actually have the wherewithal to do that. And I believe here in the tribe we do. And so since the context of today is actually cryptocurrency or casino, and, you know, that's kind of just addressing it in a very, in a very expressive way, but just we're saying in general, in relation to the cryptocurrency space, is this the technology of the future? Is this the potential for us to begin to actually create our own value and create our own structures and financial instruments? Or is this a casino and we're all signing up to lose all of our money? And what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about my experience since 2017, but mainly the most important parts of things of what I learned was a really good idea and what was a really bad idea. And of course, because the context is a casino, this means that you may lose some money in learning. And I find nothing that's really valuable to be devoid of that. That's why they, when you go to college, you go to learn, and they taking some money and some time. And, in the end, you still got to decide if that's really the field that you're supposed to be in. And all of these things are that way because we're all different. Some of us work with the financial thing and the numbers very well. Others work with different things that are opposite to that. So we have to figure out what comes in balance for us, and then by all means not try to discourage others who are in our vibration and in our frequency from pursuing it and turning it into something that would be of our vibration and uniqueness. But that, of course, in the cryptocurrency space wouldn't be our own personal addition. There are many that are actually looking into the space for sovereignty, also into creating decentralized applications that allow us to move away from the centralized aspects of life if we choose. And so I for sure have made that choice to begin to go in the direction of sovereignty. And what I, again, want to just zoom in on right away is that when cryptocurrency really first came to my attention, like directly, I would say that was in 2017. I did hear something about it in 2015. I started to onboard, and I was unsuccessful in onboarding even as a technical person. And needless to say, I didn't onboard in 2015. So I came in 2017, and because I was a lot more empathic and agile with my energy and recognizing all the vibrations that were coming to me, I still felt something was going on in cryptocurrency that rolled directly in with what we were all looking to do in relation to sovereignty. I didn't actually know what that was. I move really on feeling before I really truly mentally understand something. And if the feeling is harmonic and its vibratory frequency is on point, then I'm going to look in further. And needless to say, as I looked in further to cryptocurrency, of course, I found quite a bit of stuff that I just never had seen before. And that's what I just would bring out right now is, regardless of whatever cryptocurrency is to each person in their own mind and what they perceive about it, you have your own perceptions, and those perceptions should be based on your own experience. And so my experience is that I came into a realm of knowledge that I actually felt stupid in. And then also to see that this wasn't something that was just coming out of nowhere. It was something that actually contained the very financial underpinnings of how we were always really utilizing payrails or utilizing banks, et cetera. I became, again, fascinated in just something that I didn't know anything about, and that it was actually being used in the places that had anything to do with growth, wealth, finances, resources, et cetera. So I did that investigation. And of course, I caught the hype. It was 2017. ICOs were the big thing. And it was really like that you could put money anywhere and it was going to start increasing. And then also there was that point where it wasn't increasing anymore and it was going down. And then there was that lack of experience of knowing what to do and the mentality of the industry of HODL, which I think is, loaded in many different ways as far as what it's instructing, especially retail investors to do. And then you promptly find yourself on the bottom of the haystack after long nights of being up in euphoria, refreshing coin market cap or whatever site you were looking at the prices on. And obviously the world was initiated into that around 2019, we would say, like when NFTs began to get big. And that 1 year where Bitcoin went to $65,000. And, that was the complete onboarding of pretty much the rest of the world, as the early adopters still could be considered as 2015 and 2017, or those who came in during those times and somehow escaped being wrecked by maybe having stronger hands and maybe being invested in something that could survive the test of time anyway, because of things that no matter if you're talking about cryptocurrency or whatever, you're going to be looking for with any of your investments, because if it doesn't contain those things, it's not a solid investment. There's no way it could become something. There's some basic core fundamentals about making decisions in life, especially about where you're going to plant your seeds. And you also have to see, like, you know, money for sure in many ways is like a seed, and where you plant it is going to grow up. And a lot of times we're, of course, planting money in things that will not respond back to us anyway. Like we go buy a sandwich from, I don't know, a shop that we don't know the owner, we don't know anybody. Everything is disconnected. So there's no way really that you could get that, that you can get that reciprocation from what you're investing. And so that's just an important thing as we go in the future, is that as we continue to design different spaces, we start thinking about how we can, again, give more to those that are spending their energy and create a reciprocation first, especially if you have it. So you can make the gesture first. And as I said before, in gamifications, that means that you actually give the person the value that they are right when they hit the door, as far as what their value is to the overall asset. And that starts the process of engaging in a different way. So these are the things, of course, that we have placed into our applications, but this is the core and the rudimentary fundamentals for where these kind of things come from, if you don't want to do predatory kind of business. But needless to say, you have the 48 laws, you have, was it Sun Tzu? You have so many different books that are just designed for the most sharkiest of sharks, the most shrewdest of businessmen, to be able to operate in the space that you call business. So you can't expect that just because you entered in with, you know, all of your new concepts of how things should go, that you're also not entering into a space with very aggressive financial predators. And needless to say, that has been the tone in many ways for cryptocurrency as a whole, like the published PR'd version of cryptocurrency, not even so much as blockchain technology itself, but all of the adoption phases of the idea that cryptocurrency could be the next thing for financial solutions for the world, in selling that idea, meaning that cryptocurrency's original tug of war was to actually replace the banking system, not to interoperate with the banking system. That's what it was originally created for, of course, starting with Bitcoin. That idea morphs. As things do morph over time, it's like when you get a large power, it doesn't mean that it just can be used for one thing. It can be used for multiple things. So we saw all the derivatives now of cryptocurrency, and predominantly it just breaks down to that bottom line, especially if people are going through some kind of financial stress. They're looking to invest money and get money back. However, people who are not familiar with investing money or have no training in investing money and reaping profits, they have a tendency to approach it more like a lottery, where it's like, I'm gonna buy this ticket, and for $1, I'm gonna get 500 million Doge duds. And if all of them hit $1, if we just hit $1, actually, if we just hit 50 cents, look, if we just hit 10 cents, and that's pretty much the conversation, is this kind of like a lottery ticket which you haven't scratched yet, and you're just thinking one day this is going to end up being something. And that actually ends up running down the same chord in our consciousness as some of the spiritual programming about suffering now, and then later on your life's going to be better, or that all of those kind of stigmas that actually trigger based on other scenarios that go on in your brain. Then it all gets rolled in together. And then again, you hold all the way down, and then you realize that you know your lottery ticket didn't pay off. Or maybe it will one day. It just depends on how kind of much you have put yourself into some level of stupor and didn't realize that investing is an actual skill. People go to school for it. It's not something that is just like, okay, I could just figure out which ones are going up and then I'll get that one, because there's just other things to it. Yeah, I mean, that could work for a moment. But again, being able to chart properly, like you have people in this space that they chart on 15-minute charts. And you're still trying to figure out, how would I make money off 15 minutes? If it's not going up in 15 minutes, then how am I going to make money? If I put $100 and I would only make like $3. So the mind is like, you don't even understand the instrument. Whether it's going up or going down, they can make money if they can prove that it's going to go down. They can make money if they can prove that it's going to go up. And the money being made is in large increments because they're coming from a space that, as a traditional investor, do you know that 3% was really the sweet, hot number in hedge funds and in investments not too long ago? That if you could begin to make 3% profit off your investment in 5 years, this was deemed to be great. Anybody touching cryptocurrency right now they would laugh at you if you told them 3%. I mean, why would I let you hold 97% of my money for 3% of it back, basically, is what's being said. And for sure, you could say exactly, except for that is just how strict the monetary system, pre-cryptocurrency and investment structures have really been to the retail market, day traders, et cetera, the retail market, to what kind of action they can hope to get. And of course, you're going to get your 9%. You're going to even get some myths, some unicorns from time to time. But that's just to keep everybody cohesed into a system that, again, not only taxes on every single angle, but also has in itself such a strong level of manipulation, which we now see, of course, in the cryptocurrency market, but we seem to think that stocks were always clean to manipulation. And of course, that's not true. So the stock market is for sure like you have rode up on the slave trade, except for you're on the other side doing the bidding. I mean, just to keep it very clear, it's not a space where you come in with, all your hope and emotions and intentions and hope something is going to go well with you. You either have to vibe with that kind of vibration or frequency and be a part of that. That's why there's a lifestyle part of that. It includes a Corvette and 2 blondes and a lifetime subscription to Cheetahs. It's a whole different thing. And if you can't do that along with all the opiates that are necessary to stay stabilized against the guilt of what it takes to really drive that bottom line and then spend it all that year, then you're not built like that. So needless to say, when the cryptocurrency space opened, it was like, you can imagine what that looks like from somebody coming from a space like that. Again, where the grind is in smaller percentage, where you could come in and you can X, like the idea of an X, a 1X, 2X, 3X over profits. This is like insane. So this is, of course, why when the cryptocurrency market lit up, it attracted all of those beings. In fact, it's known that the Wolf on Wall Street, there's even a lawsuit around the Wolf on Wall Street movie and the people who were involved in it, which I just don't want to get into banging right now and talking names, but they have lawsuits against them for just even the construct of how they put the movie together. Some of the things that were mentioned in the movie. So basically what it boiled down to is that the movie was not supposed to be published. It gave the wrong idea about a lot of things, and the system didn't feel comfortable with it. But the same people who put that movie into play also are the people who ran so much of certain parts of the cryptocurrency space, especially in the beginning, especially in relation to the apps that many people use to onboard with into the space. So we don't really come into cryptocurrency. What I'm saying is finding like different players. There are some for sure, but you actually find the ones who have it in their cradle are actually many of the old players, especially in big tech. And because they were the first movers, they were the ones that knew what was coming, knew what the potential of the marketing plan could be. Because that's really a lot of times how a lot of these things are just analyzed is, will people go nuts over it or not? It doesn't really matter what it is. It's like when an analysis is looking at it, it's like this idea of basically creating your dream from a small amount of money is archaic. And if we can somehow reboot this again, trying to interoperate on something that also does in every way have the potential to actually allow a person to become financially free, then this creates a perfect antithesis. You see what I mean? So they already warmed up for that. And so what we can see is, and so this is just giving some knowledge from my experience. Now I'm glad we're on the floor. Okay, just to, you can never say what the floor is, but for sure we know we hit a floor in many ways with the entire market and the slide from the elevated, hypothecated $65,000, $70,000 Bitcoin all the way down to $20,000. So we have to understand that even like when we were making a decision of when we were going to launch our NFT, and even why we use that structure like NFT and then token after utility begins, is because we've just been analyzing the entire field. Realize that for sure it's much better to launch on the bottom than it is on the top. Like there are projects that launch towards the apex of what happened during the retail adoption and receive so much and then now have nothing. That's a really tough position for anyone to be in. Like, and for sure, my heart goes out to all those that just came in with some genuine ideas to utilize the space, and just got caught up into everything and thought it was going to ride out forever, and now they're 90%. And remember, as a company, if you have like a certain amount of money, you're going to start allocating that as investments into the company. You're going to start picking up new employees. You're going to start doing a lot of different things because now all of a sudden, what you initially started with has grown. That's very foreign in a company also. Like, you don't generally get the financial asset and the financial asset itself grows. Like, somebody gives you $300,000 loan, that grows because you sold the product and bought things to market, but it's going to shrink before it grows. This is an asset that someone can give you, and then it starts growing, and it still can be interchangeable to, financial currency. So that introduced probably a totally different phenomenon. I'm sure that it wrecked unicorns. I think that was the death of the unicorn, because basically you had so many of these tech outfits that just kind of came into the space, especially the new startups. Then they got these huge budgets, and then they was real bougie, but they just bought up like all of what infrastructure they would need to scale up within a year, and then ended up within a few months with 90% of the entire budget gone. And everybody and everything that needs that kind of budget just staring like, what are we going to do? Like, anybody involved in these kind of things actually control the markets. And I think that would be the bigger component here, controlling the market. So it was easy to see, if you weren't doped up under some kind of euphoria, that there was some rigging going on. And after you got into the news thing, or what they call the FUD, right? The fear, uncertainty, dark. So once you start seeing FUD manipulate the market, and then it was always FUD that made the market crash that day, that was kind of like the first hint, because it meant that you could say anything could make it crash. Sometimes in the day, so what happened? Oh, Nancy Pelosi drove down the same block as Bitcoin, where the headquarters are. Price is going down. So it's just like manipulation, but not wanting to accept that manipulation could be in play, because obviously this was supposed to be the space that was different from the manipulation that goes on in the financial system. So you see how it's a weird position? It's like in one state, the consciousness sees exact freedom, but then in another state, that freedom is actually inside of a cage. And, you could get locked in the process of trying to actually get it out of that cage and get it into your life, and then kind of get sidetracked or sideswiped by something else coming through that you didn't even expect. And so this was my experience in many ways, that I experienced quite a few things, but I always followed rule number 1. Maybe I should have given you that. It's, to me, the only rule. Never invest more than you're willing to lose. Never invest more than you can lose. You even put weird energy on your investment when you can't afford to lose it. You're also a gambler. That is the difference between an investor and a gambler. It's a very thin line, and it gets crossed a lot. But ultimately and truly, it's, do you feel like terminating yourself because you've lost the entire real bundle of your life existence? Or can you live again with a solemn note that you paid a heavy tuition for your financial education? So always a disclaimer, never put anything in that you can't afford to lose. Now, me also, I'm not a very happy loser. I don't gamble because I don't like to lose. The feeling of winning for me does not balance out with the feeling of losing, so I just don't participate. So in that respect, it's still, what kind of loser are you? Because some people lose and they punch holes in TVs and stuff like that. It's like, because loss is a part of what you're going to get into anyway. Like I say, anything that has a sophistication to it, there's like a calibration process. So even calibrating your own technique of day trading or whatever, there's going to be losses, and you have an amount allocated for that loss. You have a stop loss. So you're already preparing to lose. Most come into investment spaces preparing to win because it's like a lottery. It's like, I'm going to put this money in and it's going to do something. The person never expects to actually lose the money, because if they knew that they could lose the money, they would have just kept it and not invested in the first place. Especially retail investors, meaning people who are just looking to invest to get smaller amounts of money. Now, what we for sure found out is that there were some larger parties at play, such as hedge funds that just switched their name and came into the cryptocurrency space, that were able to actually construct financial instruments that allowed them to bring these hypothecated assets of cryptocurrency back around to their core investors and promise absorbed profits, 30%. See, even when these hedge funds were offering the people that were investing inside of their funds the benefits of cryptocurrency, they were creating vehicles that only gave 30% profit. Now, 30% profit is, remember, from a person that is used to 3 to 8%, 30% is like, where do I sign? So you had all of these hedge funds. It was the same companies, but remember, there was no need to have certain licensing. And all these people who were very professionals at financial technologies, this was like the heyday. Like, no telling how much money these people actually have, because the bank takes the money. Meaning that still right now, Bank of America takes Bitcoin. So you're not dealing with a thing that is just locked out for a person to actually bring this or realize this back around into cash. I feel like that many people stayed stuck in that awareness, and that weird awareness that like cryptocurrency was something we were waiting on to adopt so we can spend it to do other things. But meanwhile, people were buying gold off of Amazon using purse.io and spending Bitcoin for that gold and getting it delivered. And it was showing up. So do you see what I mean? So this means that in sometimes our own speculation, things are moving fast. But the thing about the cryptocurrency or the blockchain is it opened up the throughput, meaning the amount that can be transferred in the amount of time. Anybody that's ever sent a big wire knows some of the dramas that can go on with the bank with trying to approve this wire even. However, with cryptocurrency, and then even the fees, sometimes it's just associated fees. But cryptocurrency opened up the bandwidth infinitely, like to the compression of all of the ASIC miners and all the compression supercomputer units that were there to crunch the blockchain or hash the blockchain. So I guess what I'm getting at here is that we saw a big gateway of finance being open, and then that gateway money just rushing through it. So it was easy to remove billions of dollars in moments, and that still is happening right now. So there was that. There was this awareness again that, okay, I'm in the pool with other players. Maybe I need to just sit back for a minute and just really study the whole thing, study the game. As I said, study gamification. See where these things are going, especially if you have some part in this and you're going to find your way in this, like figure out what not to do, basically. And so I wanted to go over again a few of those things, if I haven't already, of techniques, right? So again, in a space of speculation and hypothecation galore, speculation and hypothecation in real business is always something that exists. You got to look at the asset and determine if in a few years or 10 years or whatever, what is the value going to be? So that is always there. It's not something that, you can expect to be free from in investments. However, there is for sure with whatever is being hypothecated on, what is the probability that it will come to use at some point? Because if you start seeing as you're going down the roadmap that it doesn't really get implemented, especially in its show day. Like for me, Bitcoin show day was when they cut the Russians off from the monetary supply. That was when we should have seen it. because that meant large groups of people were literally afraid, not just in Russia, but all over the world, that if they didn't somehow adopt some other kind of financial structure, that they could have their money removed almost overnight, if not overnight. That was Bitcoin's time to shine. And to me, because that didn't happen then, I can kind of gauge where we're at on the journey and what the journey would consist of for us to see strong price action again like that with Bitcoin, or whether we even need to. But that was the time, and then that time lapsed and expired, and the world went on, and the markets kind of stayed still crippled from what had happened to them. So in the use case point, you got to know when the use case point happens with a business and an investment, because that's what you're waiting on. And then how things respond determine what you really start doing with your investments from there, if you've been into that investment that long. And so for me, once I saw that use case point go away, then I knew the hypothecation points were going to start coming down. And people were going to basically start consolidating into things that, because you have many people that were not going to leave the space anyway for a variety of reasons, but you had to consolidate into stuff that you can expect to hold and weather the storm. So that kind of brings me to the first level of just overall investments, but not investment advice, which is DCA or dollar cost averaging, right? So it's something very basic. You could go and look it up yourself. It's not very complicated, so it won't take me but a moment to explain it. But it's just that the same thing that you were told when you were young, if you take a certain percentage of every check that you get and you put that away, then it's going to equal a lot of money. And sometimes you can see only 3 or 5% as being not a lot of money, but never realizing the time is going to go by, and it eventually begins to stack up just like the little 3% they give you on the credit card sometimes. But in conclusion, it's that process of, instead of completely going into the investment, gradually going into the investment. So it's very simple. And in itself, if you're not a big time investor and you don't know about the space already, that is for sure the way to begin. And also, I would say for sure, the law of averages works in your favor, because obviously as time goes on, you catch the lower and the high points. And then you end up even catching a surge at times. And this, again, it just increases your benefit of winning. The other thing is getting in on something early. I can only just give it as a brief example here is helium. Helium was at $1, and everybody was still fighting about whether or not it was going to be something. But everything in Crunchface said it was going to be something. To this day, helium is still at $9. Helium went to $54. Why am I bringing this as an example? It's just because it didn't matter really what happened to the charts in the beginning or the end. If you were like a long-term investor, 3-year, 5-year, which is long-term now, you were going to still be eight times your profit if you had got in early. And it was, of course, even lower than that. But I'm just saying, getting in early has always been one of the biggest keys to investments. Once everybody starts talking about it, is then the time that we found out that they start to liquidate it. Now, here's just some basic stuff, because again, I didn't come in here today to just have the complete financial conversation, but I did want to point out some things. Leveraging was something that I think that all of us really that didn't know about it and didn't use it, because the leverage is almost already agreeing that you're a gambler. Leveraging, not in the strictest context, but in many ways, you've now crossed the line into understanding where you could be liquidated, you could be called, all your investment, all your time can be lost in one move if you make a bad call. For those that don't know about it, it's just where you could take $100 and they say we'll leverage you 50x. Now you have 50 times $100 to go in with. If the charts are going up, obviously this is incredible, because you're reaping so much profits over what original money that you put in. And so I think just on leverage alone, we have to realize how over leveraged the whole space was. It was immense. It was by design, leverage to leverage to leverage, especially by whales, because it's like an ocean, and every time the ocean comes back, everything that's left out there in the water gets gathered up. And that was generally the retail investors' money. And then the ocean comes out again. Because another thing that happens is when you're into the psychological damage of losing, you oftentimes wonder, should I just get out now? And many people found themselves getting out and coming back in, mainly the pattern of getting out when it's very low and then trying to come back in when it's high because you think it's going to go higher and then it comes down low again. That's called getting wrecked. So again, this kind of ability for a person to really know what to do and when to do it and to be in line with it and on time with it in the financial markets is a trade and it's a skill. If you don't like doing any of the things that I'm talking about right now, then there may be some automated structures that you can look at, but still realize that these are the type of things that it entails as far as how you have to mentally be built. Then when you start seeing things become over leveraged, I personally am a proponent of not even supporting these kind of things anymore. And so that's why I realized that if I would ever do anything in the blockchain space again, it would be my own thing. So that way I could just invest in my own stuff because I know what I'm going to do. The space was rife also with not just technical hacks, but community hacks. This is when the community no longer believes in the idea. It's also rife with, as I said, the hypothecation and speculation of utility is a Ponzi scheme. This just means that everything was existing on just the popularity around the project. So when one project becomes popular, another project dies because everybody from that project is coming over into that new project to continue their, to continue their process. And that's again how a community hack happens. And so in all of this, these were the things that I saw and I said, okay, well, what can really be done with this? Because at the end of the day, it's about the technology itself. Can it really do things? And I'm happy to not only know about, but in many ways be a part of, there is a project that is here in Costa Rica that's called Bitcoin Jungle. And it has proficiently been able to not only bring in cryptocurrency into these spaces that don't even have what we would call like the advancement of places like the U.S. when it comes to the financial instruments, but the interoperating that with farmers that have organics, farmers that are actually generally selling their crops for rather cheap, but them now being able to create their own economy amongst themselves, because if you didn't notice, many of the farmers or agricultural workers are actually generally foreigners from other countries, generally adjacent to the countries that they're working in. It seems to be a constant thing where there's an importing from an adjacent country of the people that are going to do all the farming. And so it has been very proficient at beginning to create an economy for them. And because they deal in very small communities, just like you see in El Salvador, it's been just interesting to watch how it can work. But this also is determined in many ways by, like, even if they're investing in something and then it starts going up and down, how is that going to affect them? And so we cannot say at all right now that the state of the space has all the problems solved, because there's still the education that needs to happen. And also there's that education of how to get stable. And this is why stable coins are, of course, are going to continuously come under fire. I believe personally that when you start developing in these technologies, you can begin to remove them off chain. You do need to start somewhere. So for sure, you're going to need some support. But the goal of total decentralization is to basically interoperate with only the communities that are within your network. But you need something still universal, so that way when someone wants to exit, that they still do have the potential to exit and not feel like they're trapped in whatever you're investing in, or whatever they're investing in you. I would also say in conclusion that utility is the big driver. It's something that taught me a lot in everything that I do in life, to figure out where your value is in the whole, like in the bigger community, and really challenging yourself, because utilities are so important. They're like really tied into your uniqueness, so they're hard to really discover. And that's why many people take kind of like the easy route out and just work with things like yield and, just Ponzi stuff. Like at the end of the day, it's not going to work, because there's nothing there of value to be traded into the system. And this is just like the basic core common sense of everything. If something comes forward, but it doesn't have a product to deliver, you can't imagine that it's one day going to make money because there's nobody buying it. And that's the system as it is. I would love to change the system. I am not the creator of that specific system. This is something that I was born into, the financial system. So I have to master it, and then I have to move on from it and implement something new in that order. So for me, what I started seeing is that one, tokenomics is for sure key, that there was a lot of greed. You can write numbers in a certain way that those who are the initial people who invest in it, they will never be the people who take a loss. That was another thing that I saw in the space, is that there was a desk, and I didn't even know what that term meant. And it just means that when you can go and buy 10 Bitcoin for less than the price a Bitcoin is being listed for, you can go and buy tokens that hadn't come to the market yet for less than what they were going to be listed on the market. Now, you just call those the pre-sale or the early investors, but there were stages way before that. And that's how the stock market runs too, right? We all know that. Like now, it's like by the time it goes public, there's so many private offerings that don't need to be talked about. When they come finally in with the financial earnings, that is nowhere near what the company actually made, right? So it's the same game now into something that looks or appears to be different because it has the same players. So that was one of the things that I saw excessive greed once I learned how to read white paper, and to realize that basically you just had, in many ways, these huge companies that had gotten big overnight just sitting on large amounts of resources and not even having a plan to redistribute at all those resources. But they could have. So it's like when you think about like whatever is the objective, like if you solidify resources in land, you solidify resource in commodity or stable coins, these are things that you can vote on. So you don't have to have like your entire treasury sitting into the asset of your token, and then every time when it goes all the way down, everybody goes all the way down. So you see, there was just a lot of like, it was new. That's another thing. Don't expect that the people that you saw in there, just because it appeared that this technology was so complicated, that they knew what they were doing. I found that a lot. It happened in the beginning when even if you asked a person, could they help you create a token, they acted like basically that this process was so difficult, only 1 or 2 men in the world could do it. To later on found out that you could get it done on Fiverr right now for less than $5. It's that easy, right? So that's just that whole thing, right? So it's like, Smeagol shows up, Golem shows up. So all this, just the same behavior, but that's why you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, though, because every time, again, when you get one of these advanced technologies in this state and time, the first people who move on it and start surrounding it and jump on top of it, are always the people that are also sending the ideas to everyone about what it really is. And then you have to be like, okay, well, I'm not going to take your word for it, though. Let me dive in and see that's what it really is. And then when I did that, I found that same thing. They could have done tokenomics better. You could have real utilities. That's why this whole thing with the DAO and the companies of the future is no joke. Watch how many companies use that as a new revenue stream. If you can imagine when Twitter if Twitter says we're going to become a DAO, so we're going to have a Twitter token. How many people are going to buy the Twitter token? So it's a whole nother investment round for them. You knew Telegram was going to do it, but then it came down legally on Telegram, because Telegram is, you got to look at what Telegram's history is. They were like, no, you can't do it. That'd be way too much money, Telegram. We can't fit you in on this one. But see, the thing is that, so it's the advancement with the technology gives one in many ways the ability to determine when they're going to make a lot of money. Not these people are sitting around trying to figure out what is the next big thing. That's the retail investor. And so once you allow yourself to understand the basic fundamentals of it, which is utility, you start drilling in on that. Like, what do I have that I can create that is valuable to the world? So, many of us, we start with services, advice. A doctor is only a service. They will let us say, it's only just these certain people. No, even the doctor is a service. A lawyer is a service. So generally, we sell services, right? But then we got to move to resources, right? Because that's the bigger play. That's the bigger move. That's the bigger thing that's going on. Can you control how commodities are being moved around, or do you have a commodity? And so, these kind of structures are, when you're talking about a smart city, if you may, just in using that term, you wire in all of the financial components into these kind of things and strings of revenue. And then you make it toroidal, or what they call a circular economy, where whatever it is that you need, I can provide it for you. But whatever it is that you provide, you actually provide to the system, and somebody else needs it. And then they get that from you. And then what happens is the people that are still tied into the system, because there will still be people tied in the system, people that have jobs somewhere else. Every time they bring resources into the system, I like what you have, I'm going to, take on that, I'm going to contribute to that. It's still making the overall system grow because the resources that they're bringing is coming from somewhere else. No offense, I just call it the secret of the Jews. Like, this is how it works. They work in different places all around the world, but in their own communities, they spend the money within their community. So all the money that's coming in from the world, they have everything in the community. So even from TVs to whatever, they can get it all in the community at cost. Like, that's why they own B&H Photo. Like, all the movie equipment, all the Hollywood, that's all them. That's their stuff. And so it's time to make a movie. We just get it all over here and then do it all of this and write it off over here and then send it to cousin over there with a legal thing and bankrupted and blah, blah, blah. And then, so it's always a win, 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 win. And then you're kind of wondering, like, when you enter into that arena, though, it's like you're now trying to be the honest one. As I say with cryptocurrency, you're trying to be the honest one. And then there's all of these different people who have figured out how to hack the system. So for me, that's why the navigation, like, to have a company, as they say, which is a group, a team. It's like, and if you're the boss or you're the manager, you're the owner, you're the team leader, right? So now everybody's patting you on the back, like, go out there and get him. Because the team, you're like the boxer, and you got the cut man, and then those people sitting on the front row on their side that are backing you, but you finna go into this fight. And because that's what it really is. Commerce is warfare, right? So when you start talking about now having soldiers, now it's really about very well-trained financial minds are soldiers then. And then you can start looking at places like Merrill Lynch, even places like Robin Hood, as not just being like your standard financial house, but actually, they probably even take on other titles there: nobles, royal, duchy, emperor, count, these kind of things, because of the financial aggression that they understand how to place into the system. And then, like I said, when the system is void of everybody knowing that that's how it operates, then it does become a predator / prey kind of thing going on, right? And that's why it's a battle, because there's a predator, there's an aggressor, and then there's those that are being aggressed. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to prove that you could come into the space with real utility. I'm not like acting nuts right now. Like I was, talking to Sean, and we were, laughing about however many NFTs sell or whatever goes on, really, because it's a consistent thing. It's a long haul thing. And as we continue to go in and keep proving, this is how it's done. This is how you make it then autonomous. My vision in this is to create the tools that allow you to dream. And there's a pun on that. And the pun on that is not that you have to be working all the time with these tools for the rest of your life, but that these tools, they work by themselves. So you can go and dream. Because we already had that conversation 2 or 3 years ago about automated wealth, and how for most of these people, their wealth is already automated. That whole thing that I'm talking about in the cryptocurrencies thing was done by bots. It wasn't done by real people. There was a few decisions made. They talk to the programmer. He goes and makes a decision and executes all the calls. So, it's for me, like, I see us, we work really, really hard. I would like us to put that same kind of energy into getting ourselves truly on the next stage, mentally, physically, and spiritually, because that's what's happening. You do need that. You do need to spend that time in recovering. Most disciplines, they take 10 years. You're gonna learn. You can go all the way to black belt. How much time is that? So do you think? So how much time does it take to be a black belt? Let's say it's 10 years. Do you think it's 10 years with a job? No, it's probably more like 15 years, maybe more like 20 years, maybe more like never. You see what I mean? So with this system, it's not like, and that's what I'm saying, like you look at Tesla. You know, some people don't really see what's happening. It's just like, it's a prototype. Like Tesla, that whole story is probably not even real. They choose who's going to be the next prototype or design of what the companies of the future will be. So in that space that they've developed, there's such a level of efficiency that people are not really doing all of the work. Of course, there's the minions for sure, but I'm saying that the people in those companies right now, compared to the same type of company back 100 years ago, are doing nowhere near it. The guys that built cars a long time ago in the factories and the whole nine would laugh about how this guy's just got to do this now. When they used to have to smelter it, beat it, the whole nine. And, you know, I could kind of see that that's the thing about this reality. And you got to make sure you don't slip. That's why you got to stay spry, because look at how now you don't write anything anymore. It's like now that's just too much effort. Now you just boop, 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 boop. And while, you know, maybe that is in certain ways a more efficient way to communicate with certain systems, you still have to admit that it is a lot easier than this. And I wonder if we need those kind of leisures, right? Or if we should always be sure to be like, still have your pen and paper there, though. You know what I mean? To make sure you know, so what I'm getting at here is that the time that you're spending inside of the matrix can be automated. That's the goal here. So they like think you're there. Like seriously, like, oh yeah, they do it really well. They're making a lot of money and it's paying taxes. But then it's like not anybody. It's just an automated system. And so again, can everybody do that? That's the thing. Can everybody do that? Of course not. Does everybody want to do it? No. That's just the whole part about life, is that you gravitate towards people that you know have the same or similar ideals as you. Then you're able to create or emerge with a space that actually those ideals can come into play if the people that you're creating with are actually really in alignment and serious about that. And that's why we said there's other dynamics for a person to determine whether they're serious or not. And one of those things is the empowerment to be serious. The empowerment to actually say, this is something that I'm a part of and I'm about or I'm connected to. Now, here's the thing. And I'm going to say this and I'm done. The truth to the matter is that when some people will sit back on the sidelines and they will watch and they will wait until it gets big and then they'll come in then. And this is by no means a Jedi mind trick. Do what you do. But notice how it's like every time we go to another stage or another level, you're going to always have people that were watching the whole thing and then decide that's the indicator for me to get in because it's going to the next stage and it's going to the next level. But I'm saying you have to pull back at times because your energy is an investment too. Your time is an investment too, not just your money. And you have to realize like where your mode of thinking actually is. So for me with cryptocurrency, I was in for a long haul. It is the longer you're in cryptocurrency, the less you care about what the price of the cryptocurrencies are. Even as a holder of Bitcoin, Ethereum, or whatever, the less you're concerned. You've seen it all. You almost gain this, like, you gain your manhood, if you may, your divine masculine, to be able to see it all go up and see it all go down and not, you know, be like fluctuating because of that. Because you know it's going to happen again. And that's also why when things go higher, you're able to make good financial decisions about liquidation and becoming more liquid. And that was the big thing. It's like, okay, so the profits are there, but if you're going to see this market again, because trust me, they're not far away from starting it again. You think it's over with, you just don't understand the potential. They were just trying it out. But that same process, because when it's over leveraged and it's hypothecated, it's always going to do the same thing. It's just going to do it faster than other markets that suffer from that same thing, that have those bubbles. So they're loving to have something that the bubble can bust for like 1 year, 1.5, and then it can be inflated again for the next year, 2, 3 years, and then create the bubble bigger, then bust it again. So if you're in on the process, though, imagine if you have like, you're trying to make your life savings on it. You're thinking, okay, I'm gonna do this for 30 years. You also have to understand what is your plan And when you can see, like, for instance, meme coins, you never invest in meme coins unless you're going to take profits. Again, it's a different state of mind, though. It means now you're going to invest in something that you know everybody's going to eventually lose their money, but you're just going to be the first one to actually to sell all your bags first and leave someone with your bags. So even you see what I mean? So even that's scummy. So that's why it's like your integrity with your energy is also a big key to what that seed ends up birthing or being able to do anyway. Those are like hidden mechanics. So I try to do the best that I can at refining some of these structures. It's still very early on. Seeing where the holes are, like I said, bad tokenomics, bad communities, no utility. Where are we at? Look at the NFT tokenomics. There's 1,000 of them, not 10,000. There's 20 of them sitting in there that have an innate value. There's 30 of them in there that have an innate value anyway because of the industry of spirit tech to always be classics. If those end up going in the treasury anyway, the DAO continues to grow. When we bolt on text to image, which we own text to image AI. Go check it out. We own all of the assets around all these new machine learning models, text to music, all those models. We own all the assets around those. Why? Because we were slow. They're still trying to, where the controllers are at right now is they are introducing stuff faster than most people can even like think about where they want their entertainment to be. Meanwhile, I'm in the jungle. Last piece of entertainment was this cicada that was a rare breed. I'm just saying, it's like I have a whole different vision and focus all the time for years, 14 years in the jungle, but still maintaining my psychological, mental, all of those different, technological, maintaining and refining all of those systems. And again, I feel very pleased. And also, I feel very grateful to have had this opportunity. That's why I'm always in this space, though. That's why I'm like, yo, come on, let's do it. But I can't do it alone anymore. At this scale, we're at scale. There's a lot of people in the network. There's a lot of things that have to go on at this level. We're already pushing a whole new build. We open up Karma Free Wealth. The whole thing is all you got to do is share some content, and then the thing's going to start churning. Nobody share content. So it's like we're still at that point. It's like, okay, well, shoot, I'm just going to keep building and refining it. And now I know everything that I'm being told also, like, hey, go ahead and emerge as an industry. We've been working with Spirit Tech for like 6 to 8 years, even longer. Spirit Tech is old. But it takes that amount of time to research and develop certain technology. But then when they release, there's only one place that can come from. That was the thing about like some of the products that we had is like other people sell the products. Other people sell She Legit. We got the best. We always going to have the best. But other people sell She Legit. Nobody sells a vector equilibrium. It's not available anywhere. It's not even a thing that you can easily buy. It's about whether you can hope to get one, like a Monet or one of these paintings, right? It's like people are waiting in line to actually get them. What is that? That's value. That's prestige. But see, that's all a part of the game. So for me, for sure, it's like I scoff at the game, but realize the necessity of its needing to be played. You see what I mean? It's like you got to go back into the matrix. Damn, you serious? It's almost like you go into a high vibration, you turn on your third eye, but then you're on the bus next day. You're just like, damn, you serious? Exactly. That's how flexible you need to be in this thing. And I found those that once you get out of the whole what you prefer and get into yourself, you actually do find the doors really opening up for you. And then you start finding like some of the biggest things that like I said, what they be making movies out of. That somehow this ties into your path in your life because all they're doing is they're sending triggers out of stuff that's inevitable to happen. But just to make people fantasize that may happen, but not necessarily do it. Superhumans are real. There are other planes, there are other dimensions, there are other entities, period. There's no even argument about that. Anybody who's still in the other side of the consciousness that don't think about that is even weird to people who do because it's so obvious. Then when the shackles come off your eyes, right, and then you see the matrix as itself, you find yourself, Neo, still in that tank with all that shit plugged into you. And no tank, no dozer, no Trinity, no nobody ready to take you through the steps of figuring out how to become the one. Secret Energy decided we were going to do that. We were going to be the space that when people start waking up to what's going on, we weren't going to be over there retreating. Oh, they're doing this to us. Nothing gets done to us that we don't want done. We don't worship any gods, so we're the gods, so we have the responsibility. But be ready for that responsibility, because when some shit's happening, don't be, who you calling on? Oh, Jesus. Like, Jesus is gone. You need to be calling on yourself now. See, so it's a progression. And that's why I say this is the future now. So in conclusion, the last thing here is, as I said, there's 1,000 NFTs versus 10,000. We have real utility. We have a real community. That's what we bring into the space. We are going to announce the winners August the 15th, because this is it. So now you know what I mean by cryptocurrency, casino, what's really going on, over leveraging, Binance owning CoinMarketCap and a few of the other coin propagators, arbitrage going nuts because of the slide between $300 to $400 on coins, whales moving the market, and then, your whole life savings gone in all in one moment because you was believing in that little Shibu Inu. Cute little Shibu Inu, though. He's a cute little Shibu. But I'm just saying, it's like anything, that's how raw it is. But that's just like the World Wide Web is like, is a protected space versus the blockchain. You see what I mean? Notice how even this whole thing about the sovereignty means that you get to a point where you really do need to understand how to defend yourself. And that whole defense is not that physical defense. Oh, no, the physical defense is the weakest one. You have to have mental defense, spiritual defense, or what we call professional technology. That's a protection, right? Professional technologies. Right? And then others, when you have that, what is the United States? United States is a place that says that it can protect everybody that's there. That's why everybody is there. It's the same thing with a house. Like, a woman is going to build a house with a man that she knows can protect and take care of her. These are the same core instincts and fundamentals. It's just a new time. So we have to come into that same space, again, as divine masculine, looking at all of what's going on in the Shark Tank. And then realize, I don't know, shark may get eaten too. I'm just saying, like, you have to be the real big fish. Like, you have to be able to go out for your family and for your tribe so that we eat tonight, is what I'm saying. And that's the truth about this. And then the youngins that are coming up, you have to be able to educate them properly and to by example, because that's what they're looking at. Educate them properly about example, about, and not, see, the thing is that when all this was happening, we're always constantly dealing with generations that are telling us exactly why this is wrong. And this is generation after generation. So it breeds a generation that thinks that everything they're doing is wrong. So somehow this is we got to put brakes on this. We have to be able to come in with the people from this generation and show them this is how you use this tool. Not you can't use the tool at all. Because that's how our parents kind of came in on it. And their parents came in on it. It's like, no, you shouldn't be doing that at all. Knowing that that's the age that they're going to be living in. You need to teach them how to live in that age, how to be proficient, and open them up even further to how they are more multi-splendid than any kind of limitation. And so that's paving the way. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to take some time to answer any questions. I first want to say, again, August 15th, same time, we're going to announce the winners, which is going to be pretty wild. There's going to be a raffle also, because remember, it's not too late, to have the opportunity to gain one of the Words of Love NFTs as we go into the process of forming Create DAO and actually really, really keep going forward with the Secret Energy Foundation. The whitelisting for those that have done or wanted to participate in the private sale closes on the 18th. The private sale will begin on the 19th, and then the public sale begins on the 22nd. And so, of course, there will be notifications about all that happening. And again, on the 15th, we'll do the raffle. We're going to take a few days because you're not going to see me again for about 4 days while we prepare everything and get all the technology in place and make sure everything works properly, and then get ready for this launch. And we have a lot more coming. Like, we still have only 15% of our site already in as far as the latest upgrade. We have some new activities happening around writing I mean, I just won't even talk about stuff right now. I just like, because they're like, when is that? Where is that? I want that now. Let's just finish with this, and then we'll get into the next thing. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to let Sean, well, actually, you know what? I can do it here in the chat. And then Sean, what he'll do is he'll share, if there's anyone on the YouTube side of things that actually just has a question. And again, you know, this was my last build of 8. I kind of went in on this. I talked about a lot of different things. I just wanted to make sure I covered this. This is not like my favorite topic to get into, but I trust that there was something that you were able to gain from, you know, from the build today, and just what you'll see in the future, especially in the space, and what to look out for, and to be able to tell yourself sometimes, okay, I think it's time to take some profits. I think things may be a little over leveraged. It's going to come back again. You know, even remember in that mindset of you thinking, man, it's going to keep going and it's never going to come back. The next time you get to that point again, remember, hey, you said that before. It's always going to keep coming back, or it's just going to move to another space. But there's always going to be, it's like an ocean. It's going to be a going up and a going down. It has to. Okay, so questions. The first question is, when do you see the full takeover of Web3 and the projects that support it? I don't. Like, this is kind of like that game where somebody will be like, just trying to make you believe that they could take over everything just because they can say it. I'll whoop your ass. Just because you say you can whoop my ass don't mean you can whoop my ass. I mean, I'm just saying that's what we're talking about. You see this freedom of speech? Now, remember we talked about how words, you know, the true words of power are not generally being spoken properly. So most of the words cannot hurt the controllers. You see what I mean? They work with spells and ancient tongues and things like that create certain levels of power. So vague English, you know, guttural, vulgar English does not have that kind of power potential behind it unless it's crafted with its other side, which is the Desmodema script, right? So that's another conversation. But what I'm saying is that's why you're allowed to say whatever you want. So you can say, shoot, we're going to take over the whole system. I'm going to be the ruler of the world. You can say whatever you want. Sometimes we be looking at these people, they're not honest at all. And you think that they're telling the truth about that they're going to take over the whole thing? You see what I mean? So what's wrong with us? So we got to realize that they say what they project. That's what they do. They project. That's what they would want to happen and take it all over. How? What are you taking over? If you understand how the technology is designed, nobody is basically there. That's why that's why I said it's more like a ghost ship. A decentralized autonomous organization is like you're seeing the shadow of it. It's not like you even saw what it was, but somehow it's operating and it's doing what it needs to do because it is an instrument to actually operate inside of a space that really operates that way. This whole space is really just a shadow. As I said, there's dead presidents, all the stuff, the worshiping of death. You cannot watch TV, especially Netflix, for a full 5 minutes before somebody dies. Even if it's just a cooking show, you're like, yo, how did we go from cooking to somebody's dead now? Like, this is with the culture of death. So I just saying, it's like, we have to realize that they will say any damn thing. It's just about whether you really know that that's something that they can do. And we've been like slipping a little bit because it's a slippery slope. Like, people are like, well, what happened to me then when this and this happened to me? And you're just like, well, if you can't see all of what was going on, then you may have credited to that was their power, never realizing that you actually gave them consent. So I'll be like, yo, I don't know. They got some real spirits and entities, man. I'm scared of them, brother. But you're still, you go to the church, though. You go to the same thing that is all a part of that same energy that you're talking about that you're trying to run away from. You already said that you're with it. So you just got to be able to check back completely to understand, hey, this is where all of that is coming from, and this is how you're disempowering yourself. And then that way you don't allow them to just say whatever they want, and then you feel like that's actually going to happen. So when they be taking over, if they talk about taking over the decentralized autonomous organizations, that would be a time to see. It's not happening right now. And that's the other thing about, moving now, like, and not being like, okay, so what's going to happen in 50 years? Like, that is really relevant right now. So think about right now. Somebody said that's the second question, so I'm going to go back a little bit. Okay, so it'd be great if you put question in front of your question, and that kind of helps. Excuse me if I didn't mention that. It says, will we be able to participate in purchasing the Warriors of Love's NFTs? If so, how much will they be? The Warriors of Love NFTs now are 0.6 ETH. The interesting thing is that if someone was intending to actually purchase a Warriors of Love when this first began and they got the ETH for that, that ETH has already gone up like $300 or $400. And this is because we're on the bottom, basically. Like, that's why you can see that even with something like WealthyBot is working very efficiently right now, because we keep hitting that 23,000 or whatever, and then we drop again. And then we go it again, and then we go again. And this has been going on for months, and people don't think that money is made off of that. Actually, a lot of money is being made in just that movement. In fact, more money than ever, because it's not unstable. You can okay, well, they can chart it out. It's actually running real logarithmic patterns. So it's like, okay, boom, this is it. So for us, it's 0.6. That's how it's always been in the beginning. And then what we're going to do is that we have different ways to bring more value. And that's why we didn't want to mint a lot of NFTs, because technically the less NFTs there are in circulation that are being held, the higher the value grows. And then when you start having people coming in that start seeing the project, and then that's why we wanted to start with NFTs and not tokens, then they need to actually get involved in that project to actually, so you don't get community hacked. They have to get involved in that project and then go through the process of integrating themselves. Because, see, the thing is, when you invest in something, you always want to know more about it, right? I can't think of a time, but you buy something on Amazon that you really want, or something from some store you really want, and then as you know that it's on the way, you go and download the manual and then head to the bathroom or something. It's like, now it's not coming yet, but you want to know more about it. So we're anticipating for sure that as we begin to emerge into the space, people that are even purchasing the NFTs going to want to know, so what kind of project am I a part of? And we're not counting on them specifically to already be aware of everything that we're about and what we're talking about. Some of these people will come in and buy the NFTs just off the opportunity. But that's how the site is designed, for a person to just come in and just be like, hey, what is this? I came in off of one of these crazy videos, and then start really finding their way. And then even when they sign up, Ideology starts deploying, and so they're already learning more about themselves. So over a period of their own synchronicities, they begin to actually be able to live into that role of being a guardian, which is anyone that is holding the NFT certificate. So I trust that makes sense, and that there will be points which you'll be notified of if you're in the event manager, where you will be able to come in in the private cell during the August 19th portion, and then as it goes public. And the reason why that's done is because there's only 1,000. If somebody is just sitting back there, let's say within another in the NFT community, and they just collect NFTs, you could see the phenomena of what you would see in ICO times, where just all 1,000 NFTs are gone. And it's just somebody did that, or some group did that. So that's why you have private cells. So we'll just kind of see what happens. The next question here is, can you sell NFTs without having any cryptocurrency? And I'm assuming what that question is that, like, once you buy a NFT, can you sell it like for money? And I think that there's one service, it's called Winter. Like, if you type in Winter NFT or in Winter cryptocurrency, and basically what they do is they build a gateway between NFTs right to the bank, right? So there is a way that NFT can be transferred right back into the monetary capital, right? Let's see here. Don't you have to have cryptocurrency in order to purchase NFTs? Yes, generally. Again, we were trying to get the gateway together. I may even still check on it today, but it's just deploying. Like, many of these technologies are so fresh. But again, Winter, that's what they're doing. They're creating a gateway directly to NFTs. And SuperDAO already has this gateway integrated, but SuperDAO is only on Polygon. We haven't been giving any promises, but they're trying to have the Ethereum integration available for us in a few days, right? But I did contact them Monday about it, and it kind of seemed like they were expecting to have more time. We're not depending on it at all. Like I can't live in the speculation land of something happening and something not happening. If they're able to integrate it, this means that we can deploy our smart contract inside that ecosystem and use Winter for credit card NFT purchases. But as of now, that is not available. Hopefully by the time we reach after Genesis, then we can have something that's easier for others to come in and just on board as a guardian. I haven't looked into Pi Network. I will take a look if you feel like it's something that I should take a look at. That's just answering a question. What location does Secret Energy have the highest concentration of sales? I think Secret Energy is always going to have the highest concentration of everything inside the United States. It's just because the United States market by far outnumbers the other markets as far as Canada and the United Kingdom. Question, what happens to blockchain networks DAOs if the internet is taken down? What tech hardware have you come across that will sustain the integrity of the network and ensure transactions can still take place and be recorded on chain? That's why I was saying it's a roadmap. You got to ask yourself the question, and this is my question to myself: can the financial system sustain 3 more years? That's the race. Whether it lasts after that or not, that's a whole nother perspective. So I don't have a plan per se. I'm not making plans in that space. What I'm making plans is that within 3 years that we would be able to maintain, not only for our holders, those that were a part of the network, our tribe, sovereignty, to where if they unplug all of this, there was already a community being deployed that was working to actually maintain its sovereign structure. So this means that everything in that community is self-contained. So that's what I was going to say earlier. The obligation is to the investors. I really want you to understand that. When you think about people and with companies, and the companies go public, the obligations that the company owner has is to the investors. Or even when the company is private, the obligation is to the investors, in this case, the NFT holders, et cetera. So the reason why they always do it that way is because you can't make your obligation everybody and everything. That doesn't make any sense. You'll be overextended. Different people, different things. They like different things. So you have to figure out just in that tribe that you're able to harmonize with. And so in our world, our responsibility is to our tribe. So everything that I'm actually doing and everything that I'm creating and all the ideas and the software and everything I'm putting into this is to realize this vision. Because, okay, why? Somebody says, well, why? Because I have always been like reserved about my personal life because it's not about me. Like, and once you start getting people in their personal life, like, hey, look at me do this, here I'm going to do this and do that, the whole point of the matter starts going out the window if it was about sovereignty and growing to another stage. But what I'm saying is that 14 years ago, I put myself into a certain state of consciousness and began to make changes on my life that has always made my life from that point, from the moment I stepped into Costa Rica, of real paradise. But I'm not here to tell you every day and show you every day how I live in paradise, right? Because people hate people like that, right? But they still watch them. It's like, oh, look at me. Oh, I'm in paradise. And then you're over here like in the tenements, you know what I mean? Like, what happens? Like, oh, I wish I could be there. I don't want you to wish you could be here. I want you to be here. But I want you to be here sustained. I don't want you to be here even looking for me and where's everywhere are you at? It's like, be here on your, when I came here, I had $800 of my own volition. I had liquidated my own life, my past lifestyle, which was bossed up. So I'm saying like, you're your own person, your own being. And so when I come in, I'm just like, I'm just sending you knowledge and wisdom and expansion and empowerment to make moves if that's something that you feel like you harmonize with. I personally am like, okay, well, shoot. This is also a little late in the game to be waking up, technically, just to say it as it is. There's a lot to know. It took me 12 years to really get in balance with all the knowledge and the wisdom that were transmitted to me. So somebody that's just doing that yesterday, do you think they have another 12 years? Or do you think they need another 12 years? And I guess that's just the question, right? You could easily say, oh, no, they can learn what you learn in 1 month. Okay, that would be a speculation. A month later, they just crazy. It's like, what happened? It's like you try to drink a whole cup of YouTube in like 1 month and something's wrong with them. But I'm just saying, it's like there's a realistic time frame that has to be set out with everything because that's how it works. There's a real timing. That's why they say, okay, so let me talk about the timing real quick since it was on my mind earlier today. So the word for money comes from the goddess Monet or Monet or Moneta, right? And this goddess is the goddess of periods, right? So literally that whole part of women's normal cycle is the cycle that money was measured on and the entire reality and the current rolling through the reality. So that was the real calendars. And so the counting was done in the calendars based on the energy that was coming through from the goddess's cycles, right? Of life and generation and death. That's the basis to the system. So at its core, it's algorithm. So that means that you literally have to time your life. You literally have to know when to reap and when to sow, just like a farmer. Now, those words for people that are like, oh my goodness, brother, why do we got to reap something? It's like, you're so sensitive. None of us would have survived if it was up to you. There's a time you plant it, and then if you leave it in the ground too long, it just spoils, it rots, and then it just, you see what I mean? So there's real timing to this. So everything's about timing. So I told you, it's about 3 years. In my world, I don't care about what's going to happen after that. I don't care about anything else. I'm just like, 3 years, take them all to sovereignty. Take the whole network to the point where this thing has so much value that it can coast in decentral land for real and never have to tie itself back into the system. And the people that are inside of it are continuously generating because they're being educated properly to do that. They're being empowered properly to do that. And this is no different than the Google campus. We're not talking about something, meaning that this is no different than the Google campus as far as that there is something already deployed like this. Do you think everybody on the Google campus goes home at night? Do you think all the people that work in that space go home at night? No, but they have all that big facility, right? And then they have all of that knowledge and all that awareness and wisdom and application. But now, of course, with that structure you can't even you can't talk about your real personal problems when you come to work. Just because the Google campus and you got that little Bing bag to lay on, it doesn't mean that, that changes. So what we're saying is that we're going in the direction of becoming something that is not only very prominent, but also has a bigger vision of what to do with that prominence. And we'll see what goes on. You see what I mean? Like for me, my track record is 14 years. You see what I mean? So this is not my first rodeo. I didn't start yesterday. And so I'm riding in with that because I really want to see it manifest. Because what I was getting at earlier is that would be great. What do you give a person that has everything? That's a statement. I heard that one time and it always stuck with me. It was about a very, very wealthy man's birthday. And the lady said, what do I give a man that has everything? And I said, that's a fucking good question. That is a good ass question. I love that. So I just always sit back on that. Sometimes I just go in a daydream like, what do you give a man that has everything? But for real, what happens is that you that's where legacy starts because you kind of get out of that immediate kind of thing that you're looking for in this life. And, this is where your pioneers, when they used to stand up, all that. That's where all that really came from was because it was like that vision of like, what can I do beyond even my death? And when you start thinking about that kind of thing, that's what actually brings life to you because you remove this cutoff point that's supposed to happen with you and the limitation, and you expand beyond that, and you realize that actually we do really live within our ideas, but you don't want to live in a bad idea. You don't want to live as a bad idea. That's why we call it karma-free wealth. We don't really want to push poison into people and then live in the karma string of what happens to them because we gave them that poison. That's what happens with people who sell drugs, even alcohol. So then it's just like there's this invisible thing that will drag a person down, and you got to be aware of that. So it's like sometimes we can't do anything else but that. It's like I got to go and buy money from this clown, this bozo. I got to go buy money. I got to go buy resources, buy money. I got to go buy power. I got to go buy everything from this bozo who doesn't have none of my best interests in mind, right? So when is that going to stop? Who's got something to stop that? Nobody, no one shall defeat Gog Magog. This is the kind of stuff. No one shall defeat Goliath. You know what I mean? They just go into the crazy megalomania on you. We're going to eventually own all the DAOs. Oh, we control all the world. And it's like, the consciousness of the future is built in the kindles of this. It's a crucible. We talked about this before. It's alchemy. You're under pressure. And without this pressure, we cannot really produce the distilled, refined version of you. You would have all these toxins and extra stuff that is not you. So we just boiling it off right now. And so the times have to change to be able to allow that, though, because if everything is just the same and normal as it was, then there's no reason, there's no prime mover to make all of that happen. So, all right, so I was just letting a couple questions build up, but they did not. I think I have one more question here. I'm going to finish it because clearly, I'm going nuclear over here. There was no AC, there was no nothing. I'm just like, I wonder how I'm losing weight. It's like, how is he losing weight? It's like, them 3-hour bills. Like, I'm telling you, like, I'm going to do a YouTube commercial. Sometimes I feel like this stuff is just too hard, right? I could just do a YouTube commercial, be like, you know why you're not losing weight? Because you're running, you're working out. You don't need to work out. Now, this is like the highest rating video right now. And I'm like, how does this... click. How do I not need to work out? So you just need to give spiritual knowledge. Look. Calories burned. All you're doing is talking. You see what I mean? You get one of these hot lights, right? And, this is how it works. Lose fat, lose weight. 1999. They're flooding in, right? They're giving you all the calls. Like, yo, we want to buy this. Hey, can we get this on the One Night Network? We're like, so y'all don't want to listen to the knowledge about how to escape death? Oh, okay. All right, well, let me go back to my factory. Create wonders. So in conclusion, is that it? That is, okay, so there's one question. Okay, so it's, will you keep the questions? These questions are hilarious to me sometimes. I'm not saying it, no offense to any of the question askers, and sometimes I be like, yo, how much money is Secret Energy making? Where y'all making money at? Yo, I just want to know, I might shake your pockets later on. Just weird questions. Like, no offense though, Alex, no offense. I understand you. Like, you're trying to figure out where the target market is. That's easy to say. Where's the target market? Someone says I'm having a hard time getting to the place to invest. NFTs using WealthyBot. Is there a direct link that'll take me straight to investing? Again, like the whole thing that we're doing is that whole process that you come to realize even what you're investing in, and then also getting yourself geared up to even be able to make the investment. Because if y'all didn't peep out that the quest that we have everyone going on is really to educate yourself, to learn about the space, to learn how to use the tools, to learn how to have the instruments. Because even if you don't buy a Warriors of Love NFT, but later on you decide to either use cryptocurrency or buy NFTs from somewhere else, you would need these exact same tools. So I would welcome you to go through that process. It is just like start to finish, and then it will catch on. And then of course you can always hit us up on live support, and we'll render any assistance that we can to get it more clear for you. The next question is the only way to balance out the karmic debt while attaining money in the capitalist environment to use the profits for the benefit of others? Wholeness. I mean, that's just simple equation, right? Like, it's a simple equation. It's definitely not something that you want to gamble on, though, meaning that I think that the weight in money is really, really heavy. Like, basically what you're doing is you're like praying over the food before you eat it. I'm just saying, it's like with money in general, because of what it is and how it's designed, you plan an exit strategy. But for sure, when you use finances and you invest those finances in things that actually help your body and help others, it does shift a lot of that energy. It's just like when you can imagine with money has all of the energy of everybody that touched it. Like, it is really conductive. So to shift and to transfer that energy is like, you got to try to do something with it that doesn't bring more turmoil to others. But notice how still this current with money has a tendency to flow a certain way, if you didn't notice. And so this does mean at times when you're trying to get that flow to go in another way, it will be stubborn. So you can try to channel this money sometimes into greater things, and it'll be stubborn. You got to carve out an entire passageway for that to happen. Money naturally wants to flow into a lot of these diabolical things that we see happening because that's the configuration of it. And that's why when we saw cryptocurrency, what cryptocurrency just means is what this is all about. First of all, the crypt, or being able to put or encode something. So it's like you're putting it back into a box. you're killing it, basically. That's why when people die, they put them in a box, right? So you're putting Pandora back in the box, right? So in this case, it's that same relation to dead presidents. Once they get into the cryptoverse, they have now all been encrypted or put into a box. And technically, that money is gone and can never be recovered again because it's now been changed into something else. Now, energetically, it has been changed. But now, so that offers a cleaner pathway because now it's like, okay, so the acronym that money is going down instead of being input-output or Isis and Osiris has changed. Right? So the new Zion, which is Isis, Osiris, Nephthys, and Set, Sion, has been changed. And so now all the flow of that current, but imagine their system is that. That's why they have the phallus all over the place or the obelisk all over the place that are places of power, because that's the fecundating or power component, right? And so everything that works in those systems is going to flow through those systems, and that's what money is. So still, even when you're washing it a little bit, it's like money laundering, and when you're washing it a little bit, trying to clean off some of the dirty karma, it is still getting dirty again as it's going into the system. So this is still something that overall you would want to start providing yourself with the overall exit strategy. Like, okay, but my goal is to begin to come into a new space once it's encrypted or put in a box and then made new, then to take what's made new and not taint it again. Like that means basically bringing the currency back into the bank again. So that's like once you become completely a sovereign, you should not plan to enter into the system again. That's why you want to plan your process. You don't want to just make stupid moves that are going to have you back in the system again, looking silly and feeling discouraged because you thought you were leaving and now here you are back again. So I trust that makes sense. Okay, so I think I read all the questions from earlier. And, okay, so did you know that the church early bans and decrees on certain sorts of business and finance de-skill us? I'm sure. I mean, they didn't want you to read, so that's the ultimate de-skilling. Can you share any resources acquiring the knowledge of effectively scaling project? It seems to me that Crew 3 is that resource, if I'm correct in my thinking. I mean, really, that's why we want to put think tanks together, because when you're scaling something, you need to understand what you're scaling, like, and what you're scaling it into. Like, so there's a lot of conversations that need to happen. And that's really why we even created ambassador training, because, those conversations are not off limits, but it is about, there needs to be some feedback. Like, we need to understand, like, what is it specifically? And then you also have to be able to absorb if, potentially the idea itself needs to be reformulated, because we're also, of course, in a different time. And so, but I'm always really good at that. Like, I'm really good at seeing, especially now, when it's a bad idea, just because it's not calibrated properly for the times that we're in. The question is, will you keep the quest ongoing even after the contest ends, hoping it's a continued gamification component for the Create DAO? Great question. So what we're going to do is once we hit that time of the quest ending, then everything is going to close for that moment. That way we can tally everything up. And then, of course, we put a lot of work into that. That's 100 quests. It's more than anybody else on Crew 3. We hit 8th place, but there are some, I don't know. I mean, there was about 300 people, 400 people that participated in this project. We would, of course, like that to be a lot more. For sure, over time, that will become a lot more. But there were projects that were coming in that at least had 1,000 people participating just within the quest side of things. And so that still allowed them to be a bit ranked a bit higher than we are. But we did hit number 8. Our goal is that we at least hit number 6 because we want to be up on that first page. But just in itself, because we put so much time and intention into those quests, we're actually thinking about not only preserving that quest series, but tomorrow is Tri Vibes Digest, which is a new aspect of Tri Vibes where we come in the middle of the week and we actually get feedback from everyone and have a good build with everybody that's there and just collectively share. So again, we have some goals, and kind of forgot my train of thought there, but anyway, I remember it here in a minute. I'm getting a little weathered under the lights. So, let Let me see here. Question for Tribe. Anyone who knows, do you already have a page where all these amazing questions can be uploaded, answered, saved for frequent askers located? Wow, some of these questions, it's the questions, y'all. It's the questions. Like, what was that question again? Actually, the questions are still pouring in. Okay, so let me kind of refresh myself for a moment and drink some water. Because y'all can see I already went nuclear over here. Let me. Again, to finish answering that original question about scaling something if Crew 3 works. Crew 3 works when you're, and I did remember my train of thought now, I just had to get a little water, but Crew 3 works especially when it's like a choose your own adventure quest type of thing where you need to do something and then unlock something else. It always works, of course, to have some kind of reward at the end of that. But what I was going to say earlier is that we were thinking about a Ladder of Lights series. And, I'm kind of spilling the beans early, but this is like, can we actually get from start to finish the process of going into sovereignty? Like as low as it could go all the way to the top and then set it up like a gamification, right? So I'm playing around with that with Dominic. And this means all the way to the top to the Gemstone University, starting in the bottom and in the streets with the colon. You know what I mean? And just do this. And every time you do it, you level up. And then this was always a big vision, by the way. This is not anything new, but the actual stuff to make this happen has been coming along the way. But it was this vision that we're very driven by. I guess we could still say it's something like a competition, but this just means that, like, so if I'm playing volleyball and you're on the other side and I'm really going in, you're going in too. And the reality is you become a better volleyball player and you actually get a good workout for that day. But if we were all sitting there just like we didn't care about who really won, it would be hard to really get into some of those parts of the game where it really stretches you beyond what your previous limit was, okay? So we recognize that it's a very big part of the reality, just like the villain also is a big part of the reality. These are things that we feel like we can do without, but then if we remove them, if you thought about it, you would really see how it would just kind of crash everything else. And so what we're looking at is that basically we start these quests and there develops these rings, as we're calling them. And what rings are is every time you hit to a certain part of the quest, you're now in that tribe or in that group. But the way this is designed is that you can see who's on different rings. So if you felt like as a driver, because like sometimes people come in, they just, everybody's starting off the bottom. So you feel like that, wow, this person that I know or this person that I want to work with is on ring 43. When you come in, the only thing that you're required to do is to get to ring 43 in order to interact with them. So basically what it does is it creates this beautiful design of, one, people bettering themselves and feeling motivated to do that, while also being able to create spaces of people who've done that work. Because if you know, like I know, when you do a lot of work on yourself and you refine yourself, sometimes it's a bit annoying to be in spaces where people are not on that vibration and frequency. It's kind of counterproductive. So it's been this vision of creating the final game, basically, and the prize is the reward for yourself, that basically when completing it, you would reach the stage of sovereignty because you would use the same path that those who received or were able to achieve it themselves had received it. Yeah. So, this is still, something that's baking a little bit. But after doing this one, we realized this could have really been also 2 weeks. It is getting down to the wire. It's getting all out scandalous. No, I'm joking, but serious. It's like, because we ran it so long, it has been where I feel like we could do this in 2 weeks. And that's all been a learning lesson for us to realize, how to gauge the time, how long we really feel like things will take. And to be quite honest, it's been fun. There's some hidden surprises in for many people. And so I would just say that, remember, it wasn't just about doing this to participate, to get NFTs. It was just that gesture of assisting Secret Energy in this process of becoming a foundation and launching Create DAO. And so we give thanks for all those who participate in that, and we have much more coming for you. Okay, Okay, y'all going in on the questions today. So let me see what time it is. So I'll make sure I end around the top of the hour if it takes that long to get through these final questions. So just in case you're wondering, what is the runtime? Is creating a sovereign, secret energy, sovereign state, micronation on the roadmap? Woo, boy. I mean, you always be talking that high level stuff, Mr. Kale, and for sure, I would love to put that on the roadmap because, here's what it is. What I love to do is because sometimes, like, let's think about some of the topics and subjects that we even discuss in this space. Sometimes people can get the wrong idea and think that maybe we're even out of touch with reality. It's like, what did he just say? Like, okay, if he believes that. So what I like to do with the projects is I like to put the projects on the table that in many ways are almost even complete versus even the Kickstarter process of where it's like, we can roll this, but I am going to need everybody's support to do this. We're definitely sitting now in the face of something like that. But previously, I felt like we were still at a scale where I could deliver a large percentage of what the big vision was going to be next and not kind of suffer the walk of shame, when, it doesn't happen. And it's been really kind of weird, too, even with being in the cryptocurrency space, because I for sure could see the potential of what was going to happen, but I definitely saw that potential was not delivered in certain ways. And a lot of people were left hanging too. And, it's kind of wild having your reputation, the dependency of your reputation on some other entities that you don't control at all. Right. And so what I've been doing now is especially since I've been personally been very in tune with the energy that's coming across, and it's saying, okay, this is that final stage of sovereignty where you do go into filing to be the micronation. You do come in and bring in monetary policy. You actually indemnify yourself, though, that process. But even though I knew about it, I was always seeking in many ways the mentorship for that too. And I know you had sent me some messages, so I'm sure you have something that you can share just in relation to this. But I also feel like that it's just been dialing itself in, especially with the revelations of the Gemstone University, how they're equipped. I have reached into them and begin to see how we can interoperate because they know so much about the legal stance. But our goal is that in conclusion that, because this was on the roadmap, it's not on the one in relation to the NFTs and things like that, because we wanted to still maintain those things inside that scope in a roadmap within 2 years. And we just dubbed it Project Freeland, and that's what it was. For sure, it's going to be here in Costa Rica. That's where we wanted to start it. However, it would have many of them in different places because we're all using a same template. Now, I've seen some stuff like this trying to run. I think New Earth was even one of those trying to run. And I think we learned some things from just monitoring that. And I feel like that counsels is key here, because when you get that one person, it's almost like the weight is heavy. I just will say, like, at the end of the day, when you start becoming in charge of hundreds of thousands of people and how they think, you'd be surprised what starts coming into your mind. And then you're just kind of responsible for maintaining that and then and making sure that doesn't wreck what you're doing. But there's kind of like a hidden side to things when people start to become like responsible for a lot of people. And so I feel like that I don't want to do anything in the future that will make me fail ultimately on my overall objectives and goals, which is just, to really show love and connect with everyone. And I feel like what we for sure are in the face of doing is getting ready to set up these councils so we can begin the structure that would really deploy these kind of things rather fast. Because when you talk about setting up nations and things like that, when you get the structure set up, now, I mean, they come up fast, but when the structure's not set up and then all the people are actually there and they're waiting to do it, everything feels like it's not on time. Everything feels like a rush. Everything feels like it's not in alignment. So I definitely am looking forward to, though, that, when we're able to truly launch on the ground, at least hundreds of hectare operations, if you may, of bringing in a different level of connection and sovereignty within all those that have an opportunity to participate in that space. That is for sure one of my life goals and my life objectives. And I trust, hopefully I get a chance to realize that sooner than later. But I am in the mindset that even if I don't get the opportunity to realize it my life, I'm going to do every single thing that I can to rapidly bring it about in a way that I know also it wouldn't crumble. And that's why I'm also even coming in on this DAO thing, because remember, Secret Energy is already its own asset. It's already its own brand. It's already a for-profit business. So it's even a ballsy move to make it into a DAO, to be honest, because what you're doing is you're literally saying to everyone, hey, get ready to have an opportunity, especially once we launch our token, to actually be able to benefit from the technology and things that we create. But I also see that there's no other way to do it. That has to be the actual vision anyway, because you can't even scale beyond this point unless you bring in an entirely different structure. So for me, it all kind of answers itself and it just starts happening and rolling out. And then what I try to spend my time in doing is the things that are on my plate right now that are saying, this is what you need to complete. Because I for sure with having so many possibilities and things that can be done, you can imagine, and I'm sure you've dealt with this in your own life, and I'm sure a lot of us are dealing with this. It's like, so which one do you do now, though? Because it's like we can't do them all at once. But when we start, I said that when we get to a point, and I'll say it again, when we get to a point that an idea within the council can be manifested in very short periods, almost like it doesn't have to stay out there in speculation land for so long. If it's a good idea, it immediately starts being deployed, and the people that are necessary to do that start coming into formulation. That's the design that we actually really want to put ourselves together to do. In certain ways, some of the designs that people are thinking about is really just to have like land. Like there's a lot of projects that are going on here, even in Costa Rica, where groups of people get together to buy land. They kind of do the thing where they all allocate how much they're going to spend on their houses. They generally get some acreage, so the goal is to plant as many trees as possible, maybe to have some type of edible forest, and then to figure it out from there. And I feel like that some people can actually deploy that plan, where they know it or not, even by themselves, even at this stage. That's not really necessarily a community plan. To me, a community plan is that even the children that will come from that community, they need to actually be instructed upon things that eventually, when they are grown, they are implementing in the community, and it was what exactly keeps making the community prominent. And I've been navigating how that would actually look in 2022, because that's the time I'm in, and then in 5 years and 6 years, and what will go on then. And what I keep coming to when I run this model in my own mind is that it's really just about the contained field after a while. It's about that all the power, all the education, anything is basically supported by the community within the community. And that's it. So I kind of explored other models. It's like, but what you're really talking about is you're talking about even at a certain time where leaving the community and going into the normal world, not to necessarily another community. That's why you want to have a network of communities. Leaving the community and going into the world will almost be like what happens even right now, where if some people come to Costa Rica, they go on the ayahuasca journeys, and then they go back to New York, and it's a nightmare. So it's like, I'm in it. Like, I'm definitely going to holler at you, though, because I feel the vibration, I feel the resonance, and I also do appreciate your patience and, sticking in on just everything going on. So, that's just my answer to that question. That for sure it's in the vision and projection, and I just been kind of like staying reserved about it because I don't want people thinking I'm going over the top until they actually start seeing the things that allow that to really churn. Okay, so this next question is, as the Secret Energy NFT ecosystem evolves into the great prosperity, is there and can there be crypto analyst ambassadors that guide the new investors? I mean, again, the knowledge of finance is always an aspect of a community just within itself. It's almost just about, is the community really listening, right? So I can always see a space for that. I can always see a space for also innovations to existing algorithms of some of our automated systems, because I really do see these things as being completely automated. They're automated now. They need a little bit of management from time to time because they can't do everything. But I think the future for sure is in the automation of financial systems that interoperate or interlope with the existing structure, right? And again, that's a projection. Like, that's something that I would really love to see happen, is us really fully automate wealth, and then allow the things that you're doing that you may be also building wealth on to be the things that you want to do. But if somehow those things will not pay you the kind of finances that are necessary to take care of your life, that you actually have a automated system that would be able to what you would say is to be able to augment that until they become balanced. Right? Because, this is, again, some people say, well, you shouldn't spend over what you make. And there's, again, a lot of just criticism around how this all would happen. We're just more like, the more tools that we can introduce, the more potential of the people that could actually make it happen for them. That's why a lot of people right now are basically digital nomads. The jobs have allowed the person to go home and begin to keep working. Now folks are traveling. So it's already really going in that direction. But again, to unplug completely, this is something that I feel like is more of a 3-year vision than it is, a 3-day, 3-month vision or something that can happen now. And so we're gearing up for that. Okay, so this question is 5 more minutes. So if SE decides to make a sovereignty quest, how would one be able to be involved in the development of the quest? I find the topic particularly calls to me and would like to lend assistance to see it manifest. CTD, this is exactly why we're choosing this different model, meaning that would be questions that I ask myself at times, because we'll get emails from someone and say, hey, I want to do this, or I'm interested in doing that. And then what I'm challenged with is figuring out how to plug that person into being able to do that versus plugging that person into, just the direct source, right? So if you're like seeing how things are designed, you got things designed where there is somewhat of a chain of command within the business. You can't have the person that's supposed to be running the ball behind the bench. So when you're setting up the structure of the company, to me, that is metamorphosizing into the structure of the councils. That's why we now have a digital asset council that we're forming. We now have a soul coach council that we're forming. And then now what we're saying is that for the gamification aspects of what we want to do, we need to form a council or a think tank around those kind of things. And that is lovely. You see what I mean? But that's got to be something that is like, we execute, we do. So the first part is submit a proposal. Somebody says, I think that we should do this because somebody else may have another idea. So the proposal is submitted, and then based on those that are actually within the group, they vote on if they feel like that we're at the point where we can begin to deploy that. And I feel like when you start bringing in everybody in on those kind of decisions, and the people that are making those decisions really do have a vested interest that whether things grow or whether it's just another pipe idea or pipe dream, then you will get some real results. And so we're really beta testing, to be honest, one of the first levels of how things should work, but we're going to definitely debug some of the things that just don't make sense, because you're going to run into those too. So hopefully that answers your question. I particularly got involved because it literally is a roadmap or bare minimum, a starting point of how to get back to self, how to open the third eye. For sure, that's exactly why I started the quest too. That's why I'm like, yeah, that could work really well as a quest. But then this one also is like, it's so estranged. Like, it's got to have almost like an 80% success rate. I mean, something wild. That if you went through it and you graduated, that it could deliver. Let me get some water here. Someone's asking about a time-lapse functionality on the iPhone. That's when you know it's time to get ready to be done with the questions. Like, okay, no, I'm joking. That must not be an iPhone. Hit us up with support. Check it out on Google. I'm sure there's something that we can do. Take a bunch of pictures, bundle them all together. I'm sure we can get you cleared up. Even Fred, we were broadcasting YouTube. What's up, YouTube? Please don't forget to check out the Pi Network. Okay, I'll definitely put it down as a note for myself. Let me do that now. Okay, so we answered every question that's here. Wholeness and balance vibration, everyone. I just wanted to make sure we write out. We finished strong, right? It's been 8. That was 8. That's a lot. It didn't seem like a lot. I know, but we did 8 different presentations on everything that it would take for a person to get in alignment and greater levels of connection with themselves. I want to invite everyone here. There's hundreds of people within the network. Just know that if you do become an ambassador, you are really seriously supporting what we're doing. We're consistently looking for more and more ways to recognize all those who have put time and energy inside the platform and align with our vision. Thank you so much for trusting us, especially in these times where there's just so much deception and so many crazy things happening. And just remember, like, what only thing that we can do is prove who we are based on our actions. And this, for me, is the 14th year of the same actions of continuously doing what I can to empower everything that wants to be empowered, everything that wants to be in alignment, everything that wants to be unified, and everything that truly feels the benefit of being together and of being connected. I trust that as we keep going in the future, we'll find easier ways, smoother ways, better ways, all-encompassing ways to continue to connect with each other, because that's what our true intentions are. And when asked, what could be going on with some of the outfits and things that are going on around us, some of the other conscious communities, some of the other spiritual leaders that have come off of alignment, and why Secret Energy is still on point, I can only say specifically it is because of our original intentions and my original intentions of why I began this. And those intentions have not changed. And I feel like everything that we're able to benefit from and everything that we're able to receive is because those intentions were on point. So thank you so much for being a part of this. And I look forward to the 15th, where we tighten up everything that we have going on this side and get ready to go into the announcement of the winners, the raffle, and then finally on the 22nd, when we're able to reach the conclusion of the launch of the Warriors of Love NFT, so we can get to the next stage, because as you know, NFTs for us was the stage that allows us to have the instruments that are necessary to begin to allow others to participate into something that we're building collectively. Wholeness and Balanced Vibrations. Thank you so much. I'm actually going to unmute this thing for some universal wholeness over here. Let me see what I got going on. Wholeness family, thank you so much for being here. There you are. If you want to say wholeness to the rest of the world, you can.